As we sat through some of the great presentations today, it's become clear that the question of digital ROI is still a big one. And it seems as though it doesn't matter whether you're a mixed modeler or a media planner, understanding digital ROI and Facebook's ROI are still unanswered questions. So as you can imagine, since Facebook is an advertising platform, the future of measurement and how to measure ROI on Facebook is of great interest to us. And as we've worked over the last few years with our advertisers and with our partners and measurement companies in this space, it's been really clear that a couple of core principles have come across, that the future of measurement requires a couple of really specific things. The first is that measurement has to be focused on business outcomes for advertisers, because we're measuring advertiser value. And so often that means incremental sales. And while surveys and online metrics are often of great interest, they don't actually capture the value that media platforms are creating for our clients. And by doing that, by focusing on those business outcomes that matter to our clients, that's the way we can create confidence in these platforms, but also create comparability to other forms of media. Sometimes it seems as though we get focused on the things that help our platforms to create value, like likes and organic impressions and or virality, even clicks or how interesting and engaging a character is. Those are things that for each media type help create value, but they're not measuring value. And that certainly has come across as one of the key things we need to do across the future of measurement. The second key point that's come across as we've worked with clients and with research partners is that the road to success is often way more important than just measuring whether a campaign worked or it didn't, whether there was ROI or there wasn't. Our advertising partners want to understand what are the steps they need to take campaigns and make them better over time and to constantly improve their marketing ROI. So for us and for our measurement teams, this means a couple of things. The first is that all the new measurement tools have to take into account the way that media is planned and bought on digital today. And so that means things like advanced targeting options and frequency controls and relative costs and creative. All those things need to be considered in our measurement systems to truly have an impact on the way media planners and agencies and advertisers can make choices about the way campaigns work on digital. The second really important thing is that these measurement systems have to have the scale and the statistical power to really dive deep into those insights, to provide these marketers with answers to their questions, not just hints of a solution. So back in March, we talked a bit about some of the findings that we've had from our CPG measurement solutions and about some of the cool results that we've been able to share with our advertising partners. Today, though, we want to talk about Telco, which is a little bit different. And Telco is a tough one to measure. Why? Well, first, because almost a huge percentage of the sales for telco advertisers, whether it's device upgrades or switching to different carriers, these occur inside the sales occur inside stores, meaning that the online conversions represent just a small sliver of the actual transactions that are occurring. So we have to be able to connect the online advertising that's occurring on these digital platforms with all of the sales that are occurring offline. The other thing that makes it tough is that unlike CPG or retail, the length of time between ad exposure and the subsequent purchase event could be quite long. Whereas a week or two later in CPG, you might be able to see increases in sales. That period could look really different for a telecommunications advertiser, right? Because consumers might not have the opportunity to upgrade their device or change service providers in a really small time window. The other challenge is that online actions, such as clicks, are not good proxies for offline sales. Looking at data from a recent campaign, 95% of the buyers of a cell phone did not ever click on one of the ads that they saw. This means that by focusing on click-through rate to make decisions about allocation or creative, we're missing a much bigger picture. And so as we focused on what the solution might look like, we developed something called the Telco outcome measurement. And we're going to talk about it today. I'm going to turn things over to Ruth, and we'll take you through the methodology, and then we'll also talk about some of the insights that we've learned along the way.
So focusing on clicks would not necessarily optimize your ROI. And in fact, it might actually be counterproductive to device sales and maybe even to new adoptions to a carrier network. But where most publishers face a challenge, Facebook actually faces an opportunity. And the reason is our massive mobile reach. We have more than 750 million users who log into Facebook every month using their mobile device. And each time they do that, we can identify the mobile device, mobile operator, and operating system that they're using. What this means is that we have one of the biggest, if not biggest, data sets in the world about consumers and the mobile devices that they own and the mobile operators that they're using. Now, while we only analyze these data in aggregate and anonymously, the opportunities that come with the data set are amazing. So think, for example, of what we can do with it. One thing that we can do is we could look at mobile carrier and look at the churn rate for that carrier, how it differs by different geographic areas or different age and gender groups. Or we could look at a new device and see whether adoption varies by degree of engagement on Facebook. But perhaps most importantly, we use these data to create a closed loop, control exposed ROI solution, identifying the incremental effect Facebook media has on either device sales or new ads to a carrier network. And because of the unique source of our data, we can actually identify device sales or new ads to a network, whether it happened in a store or whether it happened online. And another thing that we can do, we could actually have one solution measuring both our mobile ads and our online ads. Our methodology has 3 important steps. First, in a privacy-safe way, we collect all the relevant information about the consumer base. So we collect information about whether or not consumers were exposed to media on Facebook, either online or on their mobile devices. Then we collect information about whether or not consumers converted and bought the device or joined the network that's being branded. We include information about geolocation, age, gender, engagement on Facebook, but maybe more importantly, we include a lot of information about consumers' past relationship to the brand. So for instance, whether or not they own the device of the same OEM, same brand. Then, we use propensity score matching to identify the incremental effect of Facebook media. Now, this is very important. Because we want to identify the incremental effect of Facebook, we cannot simply compare everyone who was exposed to everyone who was not exposed. Instead, using propensity score matching, we make sure that the control group is identical to the exposed group. Then, what this means is that on everything but exposure to media on Facebook, our control users are similar to our exposed users. And thus, when you compare them, you actually identify the incremental lift that Facebook generated. Then, we look at the lift in device sales or gross ads to a carrier network, breaking down the data by different audiences that we care about. This methodology provides us with an ROI number on a campaign level, identifying the incremental effect the campaign had on device sales or new gross ads to a carrier network. But perhaps more importantly, in the context of the comments that we're hearing today about the need of insights, we also generate insights, either for a specific client or in aggregate for the vertical. And we usually look at 2 buckets of insights. First, insights about audiences. Is it the case that different types of people react differently to media on Facebook, or maybe it was just relevant for one campaign? Second thing that we look at are insights about campaigns on Facebook. What do you need to do to optimize your ROI on Facebook? Let me start with some examples about audiences. So one of the key results that we have found is that different audiences react differently to different campaigns. And in the context of mobile operators, we have found that younger individuals churn more. They are more likely to switch carriers. They're less loyal. That makes sense. But perhaps more surprisingly, they're also more responsive to media. And when you look at the lift between control and exposed users, what you find is that for this audience, younger individuals, media on Facebook is more effective. The lift is higher compared to other audiences. Another thing that we have found is that in different device launches, different types of consumers react differently. So here, we're looking at a device launch of a smartphone that had work-related functionalities. And what you see here is that young professionals, A, were more likely to buy the device, and B, more importantly, were more reactive to media. And again, for them, when you look at the lift between control and exposed users, the lift for young professionals was higher than it was for other demographics. So I talked about audiences. Now I want to talk about different campaigns, or different methodologies to write campaigns on Facebook. One of the key things that we do using this methodology is compare different types of ads on Facebook, trying to evaluate whether one type is more effective than other types. What we have found is that in the context of mobile operators and trying to generate new ads to a carrier network, our mobile ads are more than 5.5x more effective in generating sales or new ads to a carrier network, either in a store or online, than our desktop ads. Okay? And then another important thing that we do is we try to look at the effect of frequency and the number of impressions that consumers are exposed to on Facebook and that effect on device sales or new ads to a carrier network. So what you see here at the top are device adoption on the y-axis and the number of impressions consumers were exposed to on Facebook, either on mobile or on their desktop. And then at the bottom chart, you can see same information, but on the y-axis, you will look at the incremental effect in terms of device sales that each impression accounted for. And what you can see here is something that makes sense. At a certain point, impressions start having decreasing returns to scale. So the latter impressions become less and less effective. What this means, going back to Sean's comment earlier about clicks, is that if you want to optimize your ROI, instead of focusing on clicks, what you should actually do is focus on reach management and frequency management. To conclude, the opportunity using this data set means that we could help our telco partners reach the right person at the right time with the right message, so as to optimize their ROI on Facebook. Thank you very much.